Welcome to Bold Talk series where creativity, leadership, ideas, innovation come together. My name is Epi Ludvik, and today I have a privilege to have a short one-on-one conversation with Mark Sewell, VP of Sales at LXT. Mark, great seeing you. Welcome to our Bold Talk series. How are you?
Thanks, Epi. I really appreciate it and looking forward to it.
Yeah, Mark, truly was looking forward to this conversation. Wanted to start first with your early experience. Like, what early experience or turning points set you on a path to becoming a leader in tech sales and marketing, and how did that shape your approach to growth today?
Yeah, I guess I've had a fairly interesting journey. I think I've traded in 30 countries, lived all over the world. So I started doing a master's degree, and I actually got headhunted out of university by Marconi in the UK. And on the way to England, I stopped off and visited a cousin who'd actually retired at the age of 35, lived in a Spanish villa in the Santa Barbara Hills, and fell in love with California, Santa Barbara, and stayed there. The first two roles I had, they went bankrupt. One of them, I was actually visiting back in New Zealand, where I was born. They called me up and said, "We've got good news and bad news, Mark." And said, "Good news is the company's going to survive. The bad news is that we're getting rid of everybody except two people, and you're not one of them." And so I went from there to actually a really good job with a company called Advanced Computer Communications, did a lot of work with the NSA, had some really interesting experiences going to Fort Meade, but not being a citizen and having to have all the Fort Meade guides come out and visit me. And I was a design engineer. I got into project management as a result of that, and then got recruited by AMD as a pre-sales engineer, so helping being the technical guy in the sales team. Then I really got into kind of sales and marketing full time. Ended up doing 3 years in Hong Kong with a company called PictureTel. They moved me actually to doing sales, and they moved me to the UK. Did 5 years in the UK doing and then got recruited into a company called Pacific Softworks. We did an IPO. I was a millionaire on paper. Then the internet bust happened and things evaporated. And as a result of all that, kind of starting with a technical background, getting into pre-sales, and then obviously ultimately sales and marketing, I kind of evolved into going from personal development to management to leadership, and then ultimately being into change. And so I took a company from 30 people to 120. It was a software development team. I took another company from 25 to 90. That was IT service management team. And then I did a bunch of restructuring as well. So took a publicly traded company and shrunk that down by about 30% and then built it up. We had the highest ever profit. And also took a not-for-profit organization, World Vision in New Zealand, from about 120 down to about 90 people, and restructured that and rebuilt it. So it was more kind of heart surgery than prescribing cough medicine and things like that. So
Amazing.
yeah, so lots and lots of kind of interesting experiences along the way, lots of failure. So
Well, that's
yeah,
the way how we grow, right? Only through failure, right?
exactly.
The only thing that we cannot stay with a failure for too long, so we got to really come back ourselves and pick ourselves and just go for again and try again, and that's how we do it. And it's interesting, like you said, like you lived in many countries. I guess when you say you live in many countries, you stop counting how many countries you lived.
I agree. I had to actually sit down and think about it and kind of count them up. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. But you're right. You learn a lot through your failure. You learn resilience. Obviously, you've got to learn to take your kind of commercial skills and mix them with technical. And you learn a heck of a lot along the way.
Yeah. And this is what it's about, right? Like getting your hands into something that you're not so familiar with, your sales background, but then getting into like a restructuring, part of something you learn as you've gone to, and here you are. So looking back at your journey through companies you work with, and clickworker that was acquired by LXT, what patterns or lessons have consistently guided you in driving impact at scale?
Yeah. A lot of it is the kind of fundamentals of people first, really the importance of building businesses and teams on good people. In the change management game, there's a thing called change the people or change the people, which means that either you can take the existing people and retool them and shape them into where you want them to be, or you have to get rid of them and effectively bring in new people. I've dealt with people that one engineer is literally better than three others put together. It's how the Apples and Microsofts and Googles of the world work. They get really, really good people. Some of these people are so high performing that they're literally equivalent to groups of people. And so a lot of it is just literally trying to kind of have that drive and the ability to kind of continuously change things and improve things to build people first organizations. Another one is just the importance of product market fit. It's too easy to kind of get dragged into the day to day and forget the details and forget the big picture, but you always got to be asking yourself, is my product filling a customer need? And then when it comes to the next step past that is like the importance of differentiation. Too many people are, even in the space that we're in at the moment with kind of AI data services, just too many people that are undifferentiated. And then finally, I would say that the other thing is always expect change. So, nothing endures like change. You've always got to expect that change is happening, but you can build systems and culture that effectively adapt to constant change. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned something like people's first. And when you look at the businesses, like every business is in a business of a HR business. Like it's all about human relationship, right? And I see, for example, like a lot of times, like the missing part in the alignment piece on the teams and companies is because we just don't understand each other better, right? We don't have probably enough conversations
Sure. Yeah.
and that is that leads us to not so much of a clarity, and that gets us to the assumption. And then when we have assumption, we put people in the boxes. So it's just kind of like this chain reaction. And you've seen all of that, and I'm sure with the restructuring, like because you need to make sure that you got to retain the right people when you do the restructuring, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was involved with PictureTel, and PictureTel was the 11th fastest growing company on the Fortune 1000. And your whole job was effectively managing change. So that idea of scaling sustainably, building processes, supporting people, documenting stuff, doing all of the kind of things that you need to do to create sustainability is so critical for a business effectively.
Yeah. Now, Mark, at LXT, you're at the intersection of AI, data, global business. What excites you most about this moment in the industry?
I guess what excites me is overcoming all the challenges, because change is a constant thing. So it's like we're looking at it going, okay, we understand what 5G is. Maybe we think we know what 6G is, but what is 7G? What does the future look like? And this move to LLM fine tuning and the need for supervised fine tuning and RLHF and red teaming and this thirst for data specialists, the challenge of doing that really well is pretty exciting. Also, seeing AI move from reactive to proactive. So this is the human in the loop to human on the loop, and proactive identification of things that AI can kind of drive. So it's like there's no longer, for instance, in content moderation, it's not about just you're detecting in real time what's going on. It's proactively understanding people to who's most likely to post inappropriate content, and maybe you know getting rid of them early and doing all kinds of things that are more proactive. So I think it's that kind of stuff that really excites me. It's kind of the ability to use secure facilities and global reach and global capabilities to kind of do high stakes kind of Gen AI projects, maintaining ethical standards for AI and kind of scaling faster and, doing things like that. There's just so many aspects of this industry and market that it's
Yeah,
exciting. But
I can
challenging at the same time.
I can imagine it could be a very there's a lot of distraction because there's so much going on, so much innovations. It's very hard to keep it. So how do you keep yourself focused? Obviously, you're driving sales, but you got to business of translating something as complex as AI training data into a story that resonates with the clients. How do you keep this focused, making sure that you're positioning yourself well in the marketplace?
Yeah, I guess it's a lot of it is kind of understanding it enough to be able to boil it down to some simple principles. Like if you actually take AI training data, it's really about, data capture, data generation, data annotation, and data evaluation. You can fit basically everything you want to into that world. So if you're in manufacturing and you're doing some computer vision machine learning algorithm that is going to help you pick spare parts, going to want to capture images and videos. You're going to maybe generate some synthetic data for some edge cases. You're going to ultimately annotate those images and videos. You're going to classify parts. You're going to train the model and you're going to evaluate the outputs. There's lots and lots of complexity, but when it really boils down to it, it's relatively simple things. So the challenge is really finding metaphors that clients will understand and really trying to emphasize kind of business outcomes before you start talking about the technology. I think if you can do those things kind of well, you'll help clients really come along on the journey and be able to measure outputs and outcomes.
Yeah, yeah. Now, with LXT recently acquired the clickworker, from your perspective, what does this integration unlock for the future of AI data services?
Yeah, it's exciting times, and I think LXT's done some very smart things that I think maybe the market hasn't kind of woken up to yet. But you know, it's allowed LXT and Clickwork to merge the best of some tech platforms. There's now a very sophisticated kind of workflow capability. We've got the 20 millionth Clickwork or crowd worker that's registered on the platform, so that unlocks kind of scale and diversity. We can now capture a lot of those workers' specialist skills. That helps you drive into Gen AI, particularly around reinforcement learning from human feedback and red teaming, kind of leverage of all that domain expertise. And ultimately, you can build industry-specific functionality out of that and then keep growing, a really powerful, strong team. I think it's really strong. I think it's a kind of a unique competitive differentiator because I know from personal experience with the number of competitors come and knock on our door about helping them out. Their crowds are getting weaker because they're predominantly focused on generative AI and specialists, and therefore there's less opportunities for some of their crowd. Whereas we've actually got a very strong crowd and now an extremely good technical platform.
Yeah. Yeah, and the human in the loop, that is super important on that data validation. And so Clickworker, when I saw that, was now it's almost what, a year that happened? Is it like a year goes by so
Yeah,
fast?
yeah, it was kind of officially, I think, done in January, but and we're still merging in different ways, but yeah, it's going well.
Amazing. So AI is moving fast and the pressure to deliver responsibly is huge. What role do you think companies like LXT play in making sure AI is built on inclusive, high quality foundations?
Yeah, I think some of it's about just making sure we provide diverse data sets that, reflect geographies and languages and demographics. I think LXT's probably one of the most unique companies when it comes to speech and linguistics, because we've done 1,000 language locales, thanks to a 12 or 15-year relationship with one of the big tech companies in the world. It's also, I think, about being transparent about how we're doing data sourcing and annotation practices. It's also about creating very rigorous quality and bias mitigation protocols. So how do we continuously improve on quality and make things really rigorous, particularly around bias and eliminating hallucinations and all kinds of things like that. It's also partly our ability to communicate back to our clients and help them understand the trade-offs between trying to kind of do things really low cost and quickly without, and also ensuring responsible outcomes. I'll give you an example. We have one, top 5 global tech company that is their practices have resulted in them having to rely on other people for AI technology. Whereas another one of the top 5 we deal with. For instance, we'll give them a price. If that price turns out to be not quite right, they'll increase it and they'll keep doing it until they actually get the outcomes they want. Over here, these guys are fixated on this one price, and they've got all kinds of restriction rules, and you can see these people succeeding because of flexibility and their ability to kind of understand speed and cost and responsible outcomes. And then, we've got to lead by example as well. We've got to, leverage our secure facilities and ethical workplace practices. And, I think that's that's how, that's how it should be done.
Great. Mark, this is a short format conversation. Love to carry on another great conversation. Hope in the future, more long focus on the go deep in the topic. Um, I always like to ask the last question to my guests, and that is about the word bold. What does the word bold mean to you personally?
To me, bold is all about, effectively being courageous, putting it out there, taking risks, being willing to back yourself, and just making things happen. And I think, the bold organization is doing that. It's promoting, that kind of attitude and winners and people who are prepared to take a risk. So yes, that's my view of the whole thing.
Mark, listen, it's so great to have you here. Looking forward to reconnect again. Until that time, take care, be great, and be bold always. Bye bye, my friend.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.